I think the European Court made an awful mistake yesterday, and in fact this is the third time they've done it. There was a flawed decision made, a flawed judgment made in 1978, and they had two opportunities to correct it and they didn't do it. Had they corrected that flawed judgment from 1978, all sorts of things wouldn't have happened. In countries all over the world, people were trailed out, tortured and murdered. And they did it in the name of the judgment between Ireland and the United Kingdom. Had that judgment been rectified, then they wouldn't have been able to do it. For instance, when they went into Iraq, when America went into Iraq, George Bush right away got his legal people to get that judgment out, and then knew that he could go ahead with the 5 techniques, the torture techniques. I was a 23-year-old man. I had 3 children. I had a mortgage. I was in full-time employment in 1971 when this happened. I was taken away on the 9th of October on my way home from a night out with my wife, arrested, taken to Palace Barracks, spent 48 hours there, got the usual batterings and beatings that everybody got, and as I thought was being transferred to Crumlin Road Prison. Well, I was transferred to Crumlin Road Prison. I got as far as the Governor's office. In the Governor's office there was a Deputy Governor who had this piece of paper in front of him called a removal order, and he explained to me, the poor guy was shaking when he was doing it. There were 4 fairly fit, well-heeled guys standing around me in tracksuits. They were obviously soldiers, they weren't in uniform though. The Governor then read out this piece of paper saying that my presence could be taken to anywhere where my presence would be thought to be in the interest of justice. And I said to him, what does that mean? That was the last thing I got saying. There was a hood put over my head. These 4 guys grabbed me, dragged me out of the office, down the corridor of the Crumlin Road Jail, across the steps into the back of a Land Rover, went round through the Crumlin Road Jail onto the football pitch and the next door barracks. I heard a helicopter going. The Land Rover reversed up to the helicopter. I could feel the downdraft from the rotors and everything else. I was bodily taken, thrown from the Land Rover to the helicopter, and that began my nightmare. And if there's such a place as hell, I was there for 7 days. I thought they were taking me away in the helicopter. The helicopter went up and sort of made the movements to assume that you were flying. And one guy said, look, let's throw him out. Of course I thought, nah, they wouldn't do that. But they did. They threw me out of the helicopter. Fortunately, I was only about 3 or 4 feet from the ground. Bounced back up, was grabbed, thrown back into the helicopter, and taken a trip which lasted, in my estimation, about half an hour to 40 minutes. What happened next was the beginning of the 7 days of torture, the use of the 5 techniques: the hooting, the wall standing, the white noise, the deprivation of sleep, water and food. And they were combined all those 7 days. I can't tell you how long I was against the wall. I can't tell you how many times I was interrogated. I can't tell you anything about it other than it was hell. And we were put through it. Every now and again, when you fell, because you obviously can't stand against the wall for any great length of time, you get battered, well and truly battered. And to us, that was the 6th technique, was sheer brutality. And the thing about it was that every man went through the same thing. This lasted for 7 days. If that's not torture, I don't know what is. They call it degrading and inhuman treatment. Well, I don't see there's any difference between that and torture.
I think it's plain for anyone. I mean, regardless of where you stand on the political or ideological spectrum, when you hear from Liam and hear from the other men, you know it's plain as the nose on your face that what they were subjected to was torture, was inhumane, was degrading. And if someone can tell me the difference between all of those, I'd like to hear it. And that's why it was a great pity that yesterday the Grand Chamber wouldn't even afford the men this last opportunity along that path to continue contest the judgment, to have the opportunity. And I think there are more cynical reasons at play there, as Liam touched upon. This case has live global implications in terms of its being cited in examples of torture all around the world. So that's why these men just aren't determined in terms of truth and justice for themselves, but they know that what has been inflicted on them has been used as a flag of convenience, a cover for people to carry out the same and indeed worse in other countries around the world, whether that's Afghanistan, Iraq, Palestine, wherever it may be. So the men will continue in their campaign for truth and justice and against torture and the use of torture, but certainly through the Court of Appeal they will pursue, as they have with a first-class, fantastic, I must say, legal team, the people who are responsible for the brutality and the torture that they endured.
Sinn Féin, Goananus Carta agus Aontas na HÉireann, Equality, Rights and Irish Unity.